Welcome to the Master Dealmaker's Secrets podcast. And now, here's sales growth strategist, John Blake.
Welcome to Master Dealmaker's Secrets. I'm John Blake. This is episode 87. And today we're going to be talking about the aggressive close versus the conversational close. This is a very polarizing topic. I'm looking forward to getting stuck into it with you. I'm going to give you my take on it. It is my version of the truth. Is it the only version of the truth? No, it isn't. But I think you'll find it interesting. I think you'll find it useful. But before we do that, I have got something for you. If you've got lead flow in your business, so if you've got people that you've spoken to that haven't converted yet, in my experience, most businesses have got a big list of people that they've spoken to that haven't converted yet. If you've got some of those type clients in your funnel that haven't become paying clients yet, but you've spoken to them, head over to johnblakeaudio.com and get your audio training where I show you the exact process that you can use to double sales with your existing level of inquiry. This is the exact same strategy that I start my high-ticket clients on. It works really well and consistently once you implement it in your business. So head over to johnblakeaudio.com. You'll get the audio training, but what you'll also get is a PDF guide that has the exact word-for-word templates and phone scripts that you can use as you are continuing a dialogue with people that have inquired but haven't bought yet, and exactly when to call and exactly when to email over an 8-week period. This will work really well for you once you've got it installed in your business, and it will keep working. So grab that, and I look forward to hearing your success story. Okay, so the aggressive versus the conversational close. Now, there are so many different people out there that you could be listening to or reading about in terms of sales, and so I want to preface this by saying there is more than one way to be right. Okay? There is more than one way to be right. What I'm about to share with you is my take on what I believe and what I have seen to work most effectively, both short and long term. So we'll talk about this in more detail in a sec. So we're going to talk about the aggressive approach to converting clients versus the conversational approach to converting clients. So here's what I know about the aggressive approach, the close, at all costs. Don't let the client go, don't let them off the phone, don't let them out of your sight until you've got the signature on the dotted line. If you want to refer to the Glenn Ross school of thinking, here's what, in my experience, that causes, right? Because for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, and there's fors and againsts for everything. And, again, this might work for some people, and that's cool. I'm just sharing with you what I've learned in over 30 years in sales. So, if you are aggressive, what that means is that if that person has a unpleasant or even a slightly unpleasant journey with you along the road to becoming a client, they are very, very unlikely to subject anybody that they know to the same ordeal that they went through to become your client. Now, that's not cool, right? So that might be okay short term, but long term, what you find is that you run out of people to work with, because if someone's had a bad experience with you, even if they did become a client, but if that experience was even in the slightest bit traumatic, they are unlikely to subject anybody that they know to that. And they won't do it consciously, they'll do it subconsciously. They just won't be likely to refer people to you because they had that particular experience. What I also have noticed is that when people learn, because people come into sales, they need to, they understand, they recognize that they have to get good at it. And then what happens is that they learn what they believe is what they should be doing. And they could learn that from somebody who has a very aggressive, sort of hardcore, close at all costs type approach. And what happens is that it doesn't feel good for them. They don't feel like they're adding value. Often the process is geared toward what happens at the end. There's not enough diagnostic, or they get it wrong. So user error would say that perhaps they don't worry about this diagnostic stuff or the questions at the front end. They just learn the close bit, like how to convert people and how to open loops and all the rest of it. And so ultimately that leaves them with a really bad feeling. So especially when women talk about feeling icky around sales, that's what it is. They feel like they've forced somebody to do something, and it doesn't feel good for them. And so what's not surprising is that it doesn't feel good for the person that you're actually talking to in your sales conversation either. So it feels crap for you, feels crap for them, and often, and I've seen this happen time and time again, is often they become the client from hell, right? Because the way that it begins tends to be the way that it ends. The best indicator of future behavior is past behavior. So if they're really pushing back at the front end, do you really want them as a client? Right? Especially if them being a client involves, an ongoing relationship and some product delivery and an ongoing dynamic, where you need to, communicate with them on a regular basis. Again, if they've had this negative experience at the front end, it's unlikely that they are going to be very pleasant to work with once they actually come on board with you. And the other thing is that they are a lot more likely to cancel. So it's going to harm your retention, which is going to increase your cost of acquisition and your turnover. And ultimately, it is what I have found, and again, this is my take on this whole idea. It is more when there's a balance, right? So on one side, you've got really looking at how you can genuinely add value and help somebody, right? That's on one side of the equation. On the other side of the equation, it's about ego, and it's about making sure that you maintain a 90% conversion rate, and that you hit your quota, and that you can, continue to tell everybody that you're a hardcore closer, and that you didn't let someone go away, right? So when there's an imbalance, and it becomes more about you wanting to hit a number or get an outcome, and it ceases to become about adding value and helping somebody, that's a problem, right? That there is an imbalance there, and that, in my experience, especially long term, maybe in the short term, that will work for you. If you don't plan on being in that role for very long, maybe that will work for you. But long term word of mouth, especially if you live in a small place like I do in Western Australia, that is going to reflect badly on you. And what's interesting is that even bigger places like LA or Sydney or industries aren't that big. They're small. And when the word gets out, and it doesn't take very long, that can come back and bite you on the bum. So that's the aggressive side. So conversely, if you have a more conversational approach, and now here's the thing, I am all for maximizing conversion rates. So that's one point that I really want to make. I am all for maximizing conversion rates. I help people to maximize their conversion rates. In my wife's business, we took her from 40% conversion to 80 to 90% conversion, right? So I'm all for that. But the way that you do it can't be about aggression, and it can't be more about ego and more about you than what it is about your actual potential client. So how do you do that? Well, that's a subject for another podcast. But and there's plenty. If you look back on the 87 or so podcasts that I've recorded so far, there's plenty of stuff in there about the sales process. But here's what we know about a conversational process. What we know is that somebody who comes on board with you, and also just to take one more step back, what I mean by a conversational process is the person never feels like they're in a process. They don't feel like they're in a sales process, right? I heard the other day that a tactic known is a tactic blown, right? I love that. If someone knows that you're using a tactic, well, then the game's over. If they feel like they're being, forced into this arbitrary process, then the game's over. Your process should be absolutely invisible to the person. It should just feel like a normal conversation. So that's what I mean about a conversational conversion process, right? So someone who comes on board in a process like that, which is interestingly enough, the process that I actually teach, they will be so much more likely to refer because they feel like they were looked after and that they were cared for and that they came across the line to do business with you willingly as a willing participant. It should feel 100% natural for them, and it should feel empowering and natural for you. It should never feel like you're doing something to someone. It should just feel like they're naturally coming on board with you as a natural result of the conversation that you've just had with them. When they come on board, they should be a great client because the way that it begins is the way that it ends. You should have high retention because if you've looked after them at the front and you've made sure that you can actually help them before you've taken them on board, and you've made sure that the main reason that you've suggested that they come on board is because you actually really can help them, then you should get high retention. And so ultimately, it is more about serving and being genuinely adding value to that particular person's life than what it is about you, your ego, and your agenda. And the irony, here's the thing, the irony of this is that the more that you can come from a place of service in your mindset and your motivation in terms of how you're talking to people, the more the results will take care of themselves. That's the ultimate irony here, is that if you can make it as much about them, and then your offer is simply a subsequent result of you discovering that you can help that person and that they are a genuine fit, then the results will take care of themselves. So I hope this helps. I'm confident that it will. I look forward to hearing your feedback, and I will look forward to talking to you on the next podcast. Cheers.
You've been listening to Master Dealmaker's Secrets with John Blake. Subscribe to get more in-depth strategies to maximize your sales process with new episodes every week. And double your inquiry to sale conversion with the lead flow you already have. Go to johnblakeaudio.com for his exclusive free no-fluff audio training and companion PDF guide.